Yeah, I'm going to start rolling, but we're not live yet.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome to Spaceflight Now's live coverage of SpaceX's next Starlink mission. At Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral tonight, SpaceX is putting liquid oxygen and kerosene propellants into the Falcon 9 rocket in preparation for a test firing of its 9 Merlin main engines at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, or 23:30 UTC. The fire test has been delayed a couple of days as SpaceX prepares for its next mission. However, propellant loading is now well underway. We're seeing vapors venting from the Falcon 9 rocket and the strong back out at Pad 40, and ignition of the Merlin engines. We expect that to occur at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The engines will fire for less than 10 seconds while hold down clamps at the base of the rocket keep the Falcon 9 firmly on the ground. This is a customary test before most SpaceX missions, where SpaceX runs through a practice countdown, does a checkout of the Falcon 9 systems, and at the end of the countdown, lights the engines briefly to make sure all systems are in good shape for launch. Assuming tonight's static fire goes well, and after a data review, SpaceX is expected to clear the Falcon 9 rocket, assuming all is well again, clear the Falcon 9 rocket for liftoff at around 6 p.m. Eastern Time, a little after 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 2300 UTC on Thursday night, with another load of Starlink internet satellites and 2 commercial remote for the company Black Sky. This mission will mark the 27th Falcon 9 launch of the year, and it will break the previous record of 26 Falcon 9 missions in a single year that SpaceX set just last December in 2020. You're seeing now a live view from our position a few miles from Pad 40, around 4 miles from Pad 40. Lots of vapors now visible from the Falcon 9 and the Strongback, suggesting fueling is well underway. This big vent is a typical part of a SpaceX countdown, usually occurs at T-minus 20 minutes. So everything looks to be on schedule for static fire at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. countdown just passed the 20-minute mark in preparation for tonight's static fire Space Force Station. This mission is the first of 4 Falcon 9 launches SpaceX has on their schedule this month from Cape Canaveral. Launch designated Starlink 4-3 on SpaceX's manifest was originally scheduled for last night, or for tonight rather, but was delayed until tomorrow night. Again, the launch time tomorrow night. We expect it to be shortly after 6 p.m. or 2300 UTC. Following tomorrow night's launch, SpaceX has its next mission scheduled from nearby Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center. That'll be a week from tomorrow night, or a week from tomorrow morning, rather, on December the 9th, when SpaceX will launch NASA's IXPE X-ray astronomy mission. And later in the month, SpaceX has 2 more missions planned from Pad 40 again on December 18th with the Turksat 5B communications satellite heading up to geostationary orbit. And then SpaceX will close out the year with a launch on December 21st December 21st at 5:06 a.m. Eastern Time, carrying a Dragon cargo ship to the International Space Station. So all indications, once again, are that the static fire test tonight is on schedule for 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 2330 UTC. That's less than 8 minutes away now. And in a few minutes, we expect to see the strong back structure just to the right of the Falcon 9 launch vehicle move back about 1.5 degrees. That slight retraction will move the strong back into position for engine ignition. So we should see that around 4.5, 5 minutes before the static fire time. And that'll be another indication that everything is on schedule for ignition at 6:30 p.m. Again, the Merlin engines on the base of the first stage will fire for less than 10 seconds, while the Falcon 9 remains firmly on the ground out at Pad 40 for tonight's test firing. And if this goes well tonight and the data indicates everything is go, SpaceX will clear the Falcon 9 rocket for a real countdown and launch tomorrow evening. Now, T minus 2 minutes and 30 seconds. We saw the strongback next to the Falcon 9 rocket move back. That indicates the static fire test remains on schedule for 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Now about 2 minutes and 10 seconds away. Once again, the Merlin engines on the bottom of the Falcon 9 will ignite for fewer than 10 seconds, just ramping up to full throttle just long enough for engineers to see how the engines are performing before the engines shut down. And then begins the data review by SpaceX engineers to ensure the Falcon 9 rocket is in good shape for liftoff scheduled for tomorrow night. At this point, the Falcon 9 should be fully loaded with kerosene and liquid oxygen, about 1,000,000 pounds of propellants on board. Now, less than 90 seconds away from static fire. 60 seconds away. Now, T minus 30 seconds from static fire. And if you're watching our live video, you just saw the static fire test of SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket at Pad 40 here at Cape Canaveral. From our vantage point here, we heard the rumble. Shortly after we saw the ignition, seemed like a full duration static fire out at Pad 40. However, we'll wait for confirmation from SpaceX, hopefully later this evening, of a good test, and SpaceX is expected to confirm their plans for launch of this rocket. Again, liftoff right now, we believe it for no earlier than tomorrow night, shortly after 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Hello again from Cape Canaveral. Just to recap what out at Launch Pad 40, SpaceX test fired a Falcon 9 rocket at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time or 23:30 UTC. This fire looked to be successful from our vantage point around 4 miles away from the launch pad. However, we will await confirmation from SpaceX, likely via a tweet later this evening, that it was a good static fire test, that the initial data looks good, and SpaceX is expected to confirm their plans for launch of this rocket with the Starlink 4-3 mission, carrying the next batch of Starlink internet satellites, as well as two commercial remote sensing satellites for the company Black Sky. Right now, we believe the mission is targeted for liftoff tomorrow night, a few minutes after 6 p.m. Eastern Time or 2300 UTC. However, once again, we'll await confirmation from SpaceX of that schedule, and we expect SpaceX to also officially announce the target launch time for the Starlink 4-3 mission. Is expected once again soon after 6 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. And that assumes that the data review, which is likely ongoing at SpaceX Launch Control, reveals no major issues with the static fire tonight. We thank you for joining our coverage of the static fire this evening. If you want to support our coverage, you can become a Spaceflight Now member. And also keep watching our live coverage of all space launches here at Cape Canaveral and Kennedy Space Center, as well as from sites around the world. Join us for the launch of the Starlink 4-3 mission tomorrow. We'll have live streaming coverage beginning before liftoff and throughout the mission to deliver the Starlink payloads and the Black Sky satellites into orbit.